What's up guys, Bryce Smith here, ready to talk about mindset again. One of the things I want to really emphasize is just staying even keel. Never getting too high, never getting too low. And I'll talk about that from an energy standpoint, because at the end of the day, we are energy, it's currency. If you come into the gym in a mood, you affect those around you. But before we get into any of that, I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about breakfast. I've had a lot of people reaching out asking about nutrition here around the holidays. A lot of people are asking about breakfast. What's the most appropriate breakfast to enhance body composition? From our research and from the trial and error that we've had with clients, the best things to eat for breakfast are protein and fat. And so let's look at hormones for a second. When you're looking at cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and insulin, which is typically what's spiked after the consumption of sugar or some sort of glucose, insulin and cortisol are inversely proportional. When cortisol is high, insulin is typically low. When insulin goes up, cortisol comes down. And so when we first wake up in the morning, we're woken up by that stress hormone of cortisol. So it's good to have higher cortisol in the morning. And so that high cortisol keeps us alert, enables us to go on and attack the day, staying relatively awake. The problem is, so many of our American population chooses to consume some sort of sugar in the morning, whether that's adding sugar to their coffee, a sweetener to their coffee, having some sort of donut, a bagel, a piece of toast, oatmeal, things like that that are going to spike your insulin in the morning, which then brings your cortisol level down, which is your stress hormone. And then all of a sudden what ends up happening is we get that groggy feeling at around 10 or 11 o'clock, and what do? I need sugar, or I need caffeine. And it leads to this roller coaster ride of energy systems of highs and lows and highs and lows. A natural cortisol curve is relatively high in the morning and then slowly starts to come down over the course of the day. And so ideally, we want to have protein and fat in the morning. Not only is protein and fat going to get you a little jump start on your metabolism, an example could be like 3 eggs and half an avocado. That could be a great example of a really good breakfast. Maybe add some sauteed spinach with that to get some good greens and some micronutrients added in there. And then have a black cup of coffee. That could be a really good thing for my body composition athletes. Things obviously change when we start talking about performance, but I'm going to stick to this topic for today. And so like I said, we don't want to have that roller coaster ride effect from an energy system standpoint. And so starting the day with that protein and fat ensures that insulin stays away from the early part of our day. Where insulin can really be used appropriately though is that post-workout factor. So as I mentioned before, cortisol is our stress hormone. It's very important that we understand that cortisol is our stress hormone. So when we train or when we come into the gym and work out, our cortisol gets spiked very, very high. We're putting ourselves through really challenging movements. We're working hard. We're breathing heavy. We're stressing the system. And in order to enhance recovery and also replenish those glycogen stores, it is ideal that you typically have your largest meal of the day and the meal that's going to have something like sweet potato or maybe some white rice to create that insulin spike from those more starchier carbohydrates post-workout. And so just to re-emphasize that, we want those starchier carbohydrates, the squash, the sweet potato, the rice, post-workout. And what that does is it spikes that insulin, which brings the stress hormone cortisol back to a more even level. So there's not this massive spike and then this massive crash, kind of just brings it back down to that even level. And if we can play around with nutrient timing this way and understand energy systems and the relationship between insulin and cortisol, we can have a little bit more of an even keel energy across the day rather than super highs on caffeine and sugar and then super lows after crashes. And when you relate that to just overall energy coming into the gym, if you fail a lift, you should never get too low or too down on yourself. You should just be optimistic and view that lift as, okay, I failed that one, but what can I learn from that so that I can enhance the next one? If you hit a massive PR and you're super stoked, be proud of yourself, have a quick little celebration with yourself and others around you, but don't get so high after that success that you're constantly seeking that validation or always chasing the PR. The goal there would just be to have consistency. The more consistency you have, you can optimize your training, your nutrition over the course of a lifetime. And so often we see people and athletes coming into our gym where they have 2 or 3 months where it's an amazing training series, their life is doing really well, but their workspace is doing really well, their sleep is really good, but then something happens and they go through this massive lull where they don't want to come into the gym, they're lacking motivation, and everything seems to suffer after that. And that goes back to just that general example of the food, or general example of striving to stay even keel. We never want to get too high, we never want to get too low. And in doing that, you can really turn your fitness into a lifestyle rather than something that just has an expiration date. At the end of the day, the diet and the fitness program that works are the ones that you're going to do. And I think the ones that you're going to do are going to be the ones that have less barrier to entry, where you really focus on just consistency and the simple effects of just putting one foot after the other. So as you go through this holiday season, feel free to indulge a little bit, feel free to build special memories with family and friends, but most importantly, strive to stay relatively even keel. Never getting too high, never getting too low. Give that a shot, and thanks for tuning in to our mindset piece of the week. Take care, guys.